Yo, what's going on everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another review for Boruto Naruto Next Generations, episode 291. And now that episode 291 is done in the books, we got a lot to talk about because we have Boruto versus Code, Boruto and Kawaki versus Code, and Momoshiki takes over. And we got that really good cut of Sakuga at the end of the episode where you have the Rasengan at point blank range. And I gotta say, because I've seen a few people and I've been tagged in a few things, people like, oh my god, I expected this episode to be like episode 204 or episode 189. They were using still frames, and I said in the comment section last week, and I've been saying it on Twitter for a while, and I've been responding to comments in the comment section over the last week. I said, hey, it's the one that's taking priority. I've been saying for a minute now, keep your expectations in check for episode 291, and on a scale from 1 to 10, this is a 5.5 or a 6 out of 10 in terms of animation quality. You had a couple of cuts that stood out above all the others in terms of quality. You had some that could have been looking a little bit better, and you had one really good Sakuga cut at the end. I got what I expected, which is why I tried to warn you guys last week. So now that we got that mini rant out of the way, let's back things up and get into the recap portion of the review itself. So the episode opens up where you have Boruto and he's activated his karma, and you see that the fight's about to begin. The scene then shifts over where Naruto is speaking with Ino in the sensory unit, and he realizes that what Boruto told him was correct, that Kawaki was erasing his chakra signature and that Boruto's the only one who can sense him. And so when Naruto realizes this, he speaks with Nishi and asks Nishi to tell him exactly where Boruto is, and that's when Nishi gets the realization like, oh my god, Boruto's not anywhere near here. And that's when Naruto realizes, okay, it's time for me to go ahead and go into Sage mode. And the episode then jumps over where you have Boruto and he starts engaging with Code, and it quickly becomes clear that even though Boruto's using the karma seal, that he stands absolutely no chance against Code. Code is using his claw marks, he's going through, he's dodging the Rasengans, he's coming out of the other claw marks, he's taunting Boruto, he's slapping Boruto around. Boruto tries using a few creative instances where he is throwing his shuriken, he transforms one shadow clone into the shuriken, that way it fools Code. Boruto's up ahead of Code, shoots out a lightning release thunderclap arrow, and Code ends up dodging the attack all the way through, and Code immediately breaks down exactly what it is that Boruto attempted to do. And then that's when we get the major revelation that when Boruto's using the karma seal, he's actually using the karma seal incorrectly, and that's when Code reveals to Boruto that Code is also in possession of a karma seal. And Code begins to go on to a lecture towards Boruto and lets him know like, hey, you're just using karma to get a temporary boost in power, but the true way that you're supposed to use karma is you're getting the otsutsuki's knowledge and experience, and that's being stacked on top of your own individual power. And when you're using karma correctly, it's overlaying both. So basically the otsutsuki's power plus your power. And so as Boruto hears this, we have a moment where Code begins to show him exactly what he's talking about. He's kicking Boruto around, he's throwing him across the other side of the battlefield, he's stepping on his head. Code is letting him know that like, hey, like the way you're using this, you're basically a failure as a vessel. You're not even using the power in the correct way that you're supposed to use it. And a big part of the reason for this is that when you really sit down and you think about what Code's saying, it makes perfect sense. The otsutsuki, when they're giving somebody the karma seal, they're giving them the karma seal for the fact that like, hey, we want to go ahead and get revived using this body. But if the otsutsuki ends up in a situation where that vessel ends up getting killed, they lose their ways to come back to life. The whole reason why karma is giving somebody the power and experience, etc., and the otsutsuki can actually hijack the consciousness is that's a fail safe in case they need to protect their vessel. You're getting the temporary boost in power in order to protect yourself long enough for the data to actually extract. So it's a very smart fail safe that you're seeing in there. Now the next thing we end up seeing is that after Code gets done lecturing Boruto and telling Boruto, show me the true extent of what Momoshiki can do using your body, that's when we see that aura swirling around and we see the fanned up term of Boruto in this form where it's true essence Boruto. It's really just Boruto tapping into more of the karma seal's power, but we see the aura swirling around Boruto. We see that the Byakugan has manifested, and this is the moment where Code realizes, okay, now we're getting somewhere somewhere. And we have a moment where when Boruto starts attacking Code, Boruto's whole movements end up being completely different, and the fight takes on a little bit more of a Dragon Ball-esque fight, where it's not necessarily like the Naruto fights where you see a certain flow to the movements. This is very much a Dragon Ball fight. If you've read Dragon Ball's manga, you know exactly why I'm saying it in the way that I am. You have Boruto, he's utilizing flight, he's going through, the ground is cracking once he's landing some of the attacks on Code. You have moments where Boruto's charging forward, he's knocking Code onto one side of the forest, he's closing the gap on him, Boruto's combining shadow clones with it, Code is barely getting out of the way, Boruto has a moment where he starts shooting off vanishing Rasengans, and Code gets pushed back by one of the Rasengans and ends up avoiding the others, and he ends up using the claw marks as a way to do so. When Boruto realizes that Code can use claw marks in as quick of a manner that he's doing, that's when Boruto starts calling it a really annoying ability. But the fight is classic Dragon Ball. Again, you got Boruto appearing right in front of him, the shadow clone speed blitzing right in front, the ground cracking. When you look at it frame by frame, you can actually see when Boruto snap vanishing, which is a very Dragon Ball thing to do. You can actually see the zip lines where you see parts of Boruto's body form right before you see the full on attack. The characters changing direction mid-air. There's actually a pretty cool sequence where Code is marking the claw marks onto Boruto, and this feels a little bit more like Naruto-esque, where Code is actually using the claw marks to send out his own attacks through Boruto in order to start wiping out some of the shadow clones. But Boruto has a moment where he pulls Code completely out of the claw mark and sends him flying, and we have those moments where, again, it's like a snap vanish from Dragon Ball, where you blink and Boruto's in front of Code and he's punching him again, the ground's shaking again. You're clearly seeing Ikimoto's Dragon Ball influence definitely being shown here. And when Code finally gets some breathing room from Boruto, that's when Ada starts patronizing him and saying like, hey, you better watch it because it's gonna be very funny and annoying if you end up getting killed before you can get your limiters taken off. And she reveals that it might be due to the fact that Boruto's been taking those medicines from Amato, that he's able to channel Momoshiki's power or a portion of Momoshiki's power without Momoshiki taking over. And so as this takes place, you have Naruto and he's gathering his own chakra to go into Sage mode. He has two shadow clones gathering Sage energy form, and you have a moment where Hinata is asking to join Naruto and Shikamaru shows up, and Naruto basically says like, hey, what are you gonna do if something happens to you and our daughter has to grow up as an orphan? And he basically tells Hinata to stay shut in the house and take care of the daughter. Now, when the manga chapter for this came out and Shikamaru was saying the same thing to Hinata, people got their panties up in a bunch. But I really think that this scene right here really just showcases the fact that like Naruto grew up as an orphan. He doesn't want that for his children. I don't think that there's anything foul in this. I know Hinata fans are pissed off a year ago. I still don't understand why they're pissed off, but I'm more so on Naruto's side here. And we have a moment where when Himawari is getting a little scared and worried for her father's safety, Naruto looks back at Himawari with his Sage Mode pigment and he says like, hey, don't you worry about me. Your dad's the 7th Hokage, by the way. And Naruto tells Shikamaru, I can stay in Sage Mode longer because this is wisdom of age. And for those of you guys who want more information on just the Buddhism references to it, I will leave a link to a video in the end credits that breaks down the Buddhism reference and why Naruto calling it wisdom of age Sage Mode is as important as it is. There's a lot of Buddhism references to this. Now, the episode then shifts back over where you have Boruto and he's using more Momoshiki's power and he's keeping the upper hand on Code in this battle. Kawaki is helping him out, and just when it looks like Boruto and Kawaki working together might be able to actually push Code into a corner and actually get the W over him, that's where we get a really well done cut where Boruto, his eyes start shaking and Boruto starts grabbing his chest. He's writhing in pain on the ground, and the reason why is he's having a side effect of the medicines, and that's when Momoshiki stops time right before Code is about to land an attack on Boruto. And Momoshiki chastises Boruto and says, "You were using these drugs to try and halt the karma extraction process, but that was never going to work." And Momoshiki looks over at Code and says, "Why don't I actually kill this guy?" And he tells Boruto to switch places with him. Now, while the fight itself is going on, we have Amato being sus, and the anime makes a change in the manga. You have Amato's internal monologue where he's saying like, "Kawaki, don't screw this up." In the anime, he's actually muttering to himself, and it's Sumire who hears it. And I thought that that was a nice decision by Honda. If Honda did the script for the episode, I thought that that was a nice decision to actually have Amato muttering, because it lets the anime viewers know that Amato's not someone who you can actually trust right here, that there's something going on with Kawaki and Amato right now. So I thought that was a nice decision. The episode ends off with a brilliant Sakuga cut where Boruto is using the giant Rasengan, and the way that Momoshiki's using it, it takes up a huge chunk of the area and it's point blank range. And I know there were some people who are disappointed, like, "Oh my god, this is Boruto's big moment. Why can't we see this?" And like, again, I warned you guys, this episode was not going to be something that was going to blow your breath away. The next episode's the one that's the episode with the potential where that one is going to be the one that looks good, because typically in the Naruto franchise, there are moments and there are fights that are sacrificed for the main fight that you're getting in an arc, and this is the main fight. This is more important. I know that that's not something people want to hear, but again, Naruto versus Delta was sacrificed so Naruto and Sasuke versus Jigen could walk. Kashin Koji versus Jigen and Ishiki was sacrificed so we could get the episode stretch of 216 to episode 218. If you go back to Naruto's anime and Naruto Shippuden, you can find a similar tread line where there are some moments that are sacrificed so the key fight itself can look better. I've said it a few times. I know my homie Neverworld said it a few times. I really feel like the new gen fans are really spoiled with this era where we've had every year there's 2 to 3 seasonal anime that are exceptions to the rule, but because you're getting 2 to 3 seasonal that are exceptions, you think that that's the standard, and that's not the case, especially when you get to the long running anime. But I warned you guys, I said this episode would be average with a couple of cuts that really stand out above all the others, and that's exactly what we got. But my episode question to you guys is, how do you feel about the huge increase in power that comes with Boruto giving up control to Momoshiki? While you think that over, click here to watch this video explaining the wisdom of Age Sage mode.